Oh, I'm becoming a demon.
No. Now you'll be able to run track real fast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AdCast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. This week, AD stands for Akuma Trauma because we will be talking about Devilman Crybaby.
Devilman.
I am your Devilman soup.
Whoa! Am I a devil too?
You can be a Devilman too.
Okay, I'll be Devilman Renu.
Devilman. All right. Well, before we get into that, what have you been up to this week?
This past weekend, I was in Charlotte for Queen City Anime Con, and my apartment is a complete wreck, but I can't clean it anytime soon because I have another convention this weekend.
Oh my god. That's so much.
It's a lot. Now I know what it's like to have cons back to back.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, it was really good. Charlotte is kind of like my hometown, or at least where I lived before here. And so I had a lot of family there, a lot of friendsies there. A lot of the artists that I know were there, so I got to hang out with my girls at Kyoso Studios, and I got a sick Killer T-Cell shirt from Cosmic Crown. Oh my gosh, Soup. I have to show you this shirt. It's so good.
Good.
Yeah, they do a lot of good work there.
I mean, I was going to say, isn't Hataraku Saiba basically your job?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's why I must own everything Hataraku Saibo to represent.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? I got to see my homegirl Firefly Ray, who bailed me out of my very first I locked my keys in the car situation.
Oh, Renu, no.
It was so bad, Soup.
No.
It was like, literally, we were leaving the convention hall. She helped me pack up, and we were leaving. We were going to my car. We loaded my luggage into the trunk, and my keys were in the trunk, kind of thing. And so was like my backpack, my wallet, everything was in the trunk when we closed it. I was like as soon as it closed, I was like,
oh no.
And my trunk is the kind that doesn't have like a handle or latch or anything. So it's like once it's closed, it's closed. You need a key or you need to pull up the button in the car to open it. And of course, my car was locked. So,
Yikes.
Huh?
Yikes.
Yeah. So, we called my dad, who he didn't quite know where we were, but he knew a place close to there, which was, of course, the Home Depot, because my dad is a very,
because
home improvement guy. Yeah.
Dads do be like that.
I was like, yeah, we're by like the hotel. It's next to an Office Depot and a Michael's and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I know where the Home Depot is. I was like, okay, but do you know where like there's like the rooms to go and there's an Office Depot and like that whole intersection? He's like, I know where the Home Depot is. I was like, come on, Dad, help me out here. I don't know where the Home Depot is.
See, my dad is also like that. Like, I bet he knows where every Home Depot in a 60-mile radius is located.
My dad is the same, though. So, turns out that the Home Depot was like a mile away from where we were. And so, thankfully, Fire had her car, so she drove us to meet my dad. We got the keys, got it over to back to my car, and it was all settled and everything. I said bye to Fire and thanked her profusely for everything. And then I was in a mad dash to get home, pack up all my stuff, and get on my flight because my flight, like, I was already running late to get to my flight, right? And so get to the airport, I check in my luggage and stuff, and the attendant's like, I don't know if you gonna make it, girl. I don't think you can make it. You're gonna have to run for it. I was like, oh, great. Well, I run to the security line, impatiently get through, and then I book it all the way. Like, literally, my gate was the very furthest one of this wing of the airport.
Oh, no.
And so as soon as I get there, like, I see the gate and the door is like closing, and I was like, and so like I'm booking it, but by the time I get there, it's of course closed, right? And the attendant or whatever that was at the desk is gone. She disappeared behind the door. So I was like, no. And I look at the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes before the plane is supposed to leave, and am I just like screwed, like, because she's not here anymore? And so I'm like sitting there waiting. I was like, should I go to the desk and just like ask for like a ticket on the next flight or whatever, like, or should I just stay here and wait and see if she comes back out before the time runs out? And literally the last minute, she comes back out, and I'm like, so I look her in the eyes, and all I say is like, am I too late?
Oh.
And then she like holds up her hand, like, like wait a second. And then she goes to the door, and she like opens it, peeks inside, and then she's like, you're good. And then I was like, yes. So I run in, and I'm like, thank you. And I make it on my flight. Soup. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah.
Goodness.
But yeah, the convention was great. I went out with my artisto friends, and we went to go see Crazy Rich Asians, which, have you watched it?
I haven't watched it.
Okay. So you probably already know that rom-com isn't my genre, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm acutely aware of this, yes.
As am I. So I went into this thing like, well, we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise me. And it was actually, it was nice. I liked it. I liked the characters, the actors. In terms of like the rom-com quality, it was very standard fare kind of rom-com. Like, it didn't do anything new to surprise me, but like all of the cultural tie-ins to, being Asian were really good. Yeah, they were on point. Yeah, super big mood during the whole movie. And I went there like it was basically a big old group of Asian female artists, and then my two male friends who were very not Asian. Like, one was white, one was black. And so they were like a seat away from me, and so I could hear them like whenever like the rest of us were like, oh my god, this is such a big mood, they were like, I can't relate to this. But they apparently also enjoyed it. So I think the movie has enough there that if you're like not of Asian descent, you'll still enjoy it, because it is legitimately funny and entertaining. And yeah, like I said, it doesn't do anything new for the rom-com genre to like really convert me or whatever. But it was an enjoyable movie. And we cried because we're all, pansies. So.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie has Constance Wu in it, and she's my big favorite.
She's so good, dude. I loved her in this movie. Yeah.
Big
and
favorite.
It had Awkwafina in there too, and I love her.
Big favorite.
Big favorite.
There are actually a lot of good movies coming out recently. I watched 8th Grade, and I watched...
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was really good. Like,
nice.
really, really good. But it was like so real it kind of hurt, actually.
Oh no. Like Chio-chan?
I like that, but even more concentrated, because it was like everything you've ever felt about being an 8th grader distilled into a 2-hour movie. And it's so painfully spot on that you will basically die watching it. And
Nice.
you will know you're old when you're watching it because you'll be like,
Nice.
you'll be watching and you'll be like, girl, you got to appreciate your dad more. Come on. I legit had this thought in the middle of the movie. I was like, appreciate your father a little bit more. I'm like, oh, I'm old. Oh no, I'm not even old yet, and I'm old.
Yeah, man. I have that feeling all the time when I'm watching shows or whatever. I'm like, why don't you appreciate your parents more? And then I have to remember, like, yes, I too was at an age at one point in my life where I had zero appreciation for my very good parents.
It's true. It's true. It do be like that. It do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is like, that movie has one of the scariest scenes ever in a movie. Like one of the scariest, most uncomfortable scenes, because it doesn't go too far with it, which is it does so very tastefully, but it very much discusses this kind of social pressure that girls have, where they can oftentimes get into situations where they're being like taken advantage of, like sexually.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a scene in the movie somewhere in the middle where a high school boy is driving her home, and he parks the car and he like gets in the back seat, and they're just like talking, and it ends up with like they're playing truth or dare, and he takes his shirt off and he's like, okay, now take your shirt off, right? And it's like that moment is like simultaneously incredibly uncomfortable and highly terrifying to watch, because it's not only scary like from a kind of, you know, situation standpoint, but it's also scary because you know that there are so many girls that have been in that situation that haven't, you know, gotten off as easily as she did. So yeah, big. I mean, if you do watch it, like, you know, here's your warning about that scene. It doesn't go anywhere, but it is there, and it's going to be highly, highly uncomfortable if you've ever been in a situation like that, which I suspect that a lot of people have.
I think a lot of people in general, yeah, definitely.
That movie is incredibly honest and raw in a way that movies so rarely are.
Yeah.
It very much feels like I'm watching an 8th grader do 8th grade. So yeah, that movie was really good. Sorry to bother you. It was really, really good. I've already talked about how that's a movie you just kind of have to walk into. Yeah. Obviously, Crazy Rich Asians came out recently. Black Klansman came out recently. I really want to watch those two movies because I think they're pretty good looking.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you know
lots of good movies
came out
coming
recently.
Out.
Christopher Robin. I had to watch that too.
Okay. Please tell me about it. I need to know. I'm not going to watch this myself because I can't be bothered to, but please, I need to know.
So I have one of my very good old childhood friends was in town this past weekend, and so of course I had to hang out with her. And she has a very, very powerful love of bears. And also, you know, Winnie the Pooh, like you know, teddy bears.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Not the other kind of bears and such, but yeah. So, so she was just like, okay, you have a choice between Christopher Robin and Slender Man, and I was like,
okay,
well, Christopher Robin. So, so we went to watch it, and it. Let me just say that my expectations for this movie were, oh god, it's a creepy kids movie. And when I left the theater, I was pleasantly surprised at how nice it was. It basically is about, you know, Christopher Robin as an adult, as you probably know from the trailer, and his struggles and pressures as an adult trying to take care of his family. However, he's so devoted to work that he ends up pushing his family away, and so he ends up losing touch with his daughter and his wife, and that is basically around the time when Winnie the Pooh re-enters back into his life and teaches him how to reconnect with his childhood and, be a fun human being again, because he's apparently not laughed in years kind of thing ever since he started work for this company that he hates.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it was nice. Like, the plot was light, as it should be for a kids movie, but it was actually a really pretty movie. The 3D animated animals characters weren't as creepy as I thought they would be, and they started growing on me by the end of it, which was nice. I was like, oh, I like Pooh's little fuzzy nose. Kind of. And then in the beginning, I was like, I'm not sold on Pooh. But yeah, I kind of came around, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. It was good. I liked the acting a lot. Of course, they had a lot of talented British actors, and it's a good kids movie. I would take my niece and nephew to go see it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's my summary of Christopher Robin.
I was gonna say that sounds better than I thought.
Yeah, I came away with a positive experience, which was more than I thought I would.
Huh. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have been up to quite a lot because the second half of my summer is sort of kicking in.
Yeah.
I went to New York.
I went to New York. Yeah.
With my friend and his sister, and we did a lot of New York things.
Like what?
We walked around New York.
Mm-hmm.
We walked through the absolute sludge of humanity that is Times Square.
Yes.
It's the only way I can describe it. I've never seen so many people walk so slowly and so erratically before.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? Is I am someone who is at the very least somewhat accustomed to navigating cities. I walk fast. I don't take up space when I don't need to. And the thing that I like to do is I like to basically zip across a crowded sidewalk by seeing where people are going and then not being there.
Right.
Right? If you've ever seen or read I Shield 21, it's that thing where he just goes, pew! With his eyeballs. He's like, yes, I go that way. I like, this is the optimal path, right? So I do that, but like a little bit slower because I'm not playing American football. But I realized that the one flaw to this is that sometimes people just don't walk normally, like even a little bit. It is, I swear, people sometimes, for no reason whatsoever, walk as if they are in Dune avoiding the Shai Hulud. They must walk without rhythm lest they be eaten by a giant worm god.
Wow.
It really tested my overarching love of humanity. I was like, do I really?
Yeah.
But once I was sitting down, it was better.
It's kind of like the people that I dislike when I'm walking in a giant crowd are the people who just like randomly stop.
Oh,
like, right
there's so
in
many
front of me. I know, it's the most annoying thing because I'm like, oh my god, I almost just bumped into you. Like freaking A, just move. Why did you just stop in the middle of a moving path?
I also didn't realize this, but people in New York don't, especially people who are trying to sell you things, don't really have boundaries, so they will just touch you.
Oh!
Which is highly uncomfortable. I'm like, I didn't know you were legally allowed to do this. It's like, please refrain. But I'm pretty good at not talking to people or making eye contact. So I'm quite good at avoiding people. Let's say that. But yeah,
sure.
it was super fun. We went to the top of the Rock, which is the top of the whatever tower, like the Rockefeller Tower or whatever. It's connected to Rockefeller Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason we went up there is because here's the thing about New York, right? Is that everybody likes to go up the Empire State Building, but then you're not seeing, like, I don't know, the most important part of New York, which is the Empire State Building. Like, The skyline is defined by the Empire State Building, so it's kind of odd that you would go to a place where, and I get it, it's the novelty of going up the big important building, but
yeah,
there is something missing about going to a really tall place and not seeing like the most defining feature of the New York skyline. So
yeah,
that's a nice thing about the top
if you
of the rock.
want to see the whole skyline, you'd have to be like on the outskirts of the city, right, or somewhere like
I mean, it's
away.
yeah. If you wanted also the top of the Rockefeller, whatever, but I don't care. I just want a picture with the Empire State Building in the background from a very tall place, and I did that.
Okay.
I had my friend take pictures of me in increasingly ridiculous poses. My pose next to the Empire State Building is this. It's just the Kamina power stance.
Good.
So that's pretty good. But
You're
yeah,
Kamina.
Other than that, we kind of ventured around. I got to meet up with my friend Paul, who normally lives in New Jersey, but he came over to visit us. We got to hang out with him and his brother, and it was super cool. We went to get Hot Pot. I introduced all of these people to Hot Pot.
They didn't know what Hot Pot was.
They had never had Hot Pot before, and there's nothing more joyful in the world than introducing people who have never had Hot Pot to Hot Pot.
Oh my goodness, I love Hot Pot.
And it's great because I brought basically at least 2 people who can eat a considerable amount of food, which means we won. We won Hot Pot.
Yay!
Like I had to explain that Hot Pot is one of those foods that you go not just to eat but to win. Like you win Hot Pot. You don't eat well, you do eat Hot Pot, but
yeah.
I mean, it's also like a leisurely party food too, so there's that. But
yeah, it's nice.
Oftentimes Hot Pot places have time limits, so you can't just hang out forever. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to have a leisurely Hot Pot, do that at home.
Yeah.
When you go out, you go to win.
Conquer.
You conquer that Hot Pot place. What I mean by that is you basically you pay like $26 to $30 to get into a Hot Pot place, and it's all you can eat essentially. So you try to eat your money's worth of food, which we did.
Yum,
easily. Easily, but that was super fun. And also we went to like 8 different ramen. We actually went to 3. We went to 3 different ramen places.
8.
Yeah, and here's the conclusion that I came to after eating at 3 of the more well-known ramen places in New York, which is San Francisco still has my favorite ramen restaurant in the US. Isn't that astounding?
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing to me. Honestly, I thought I would go to New York, have some ramen, and ruin it forever. But I didn't.
Well, I guess, like, in my mind, I feel like if I were to guess between California or New York, which would have the better ramen, I'd probably guess California.
See, I would actually guess New York. Because New York adopted ramen restaurants a lot faster and a lot more like intensely than California did. Like we have a Japantown here in San Francisco, but it's not super large, and you can get ramen at places, but there's like 4 or 5 dedicated ramen restaurants, and that's basically it for the city as far as I know.
Okay.
Unless people want to give me recommendations, in which case I will go to them and I will report back. But yeah, my favorite ramen restaurant is still in San Francisco. It's in Japantown. I'm not going to tell you the exact name of it because then I would be introducing competition because the line is already long as it is. And if like, no joke, people start lining up half an hour before it's open.
Nice.
And if you get there too late before it opens, you won't get in the first wave of people in.
Nice.
Because, as a ramen restaurant, it's not big.
Sure.
They never are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's listen, just from what I said, if you know anything about San Francisco ramen, like you know it. You know what I'm talking about. But it's still the best ramen I've ever had. So Until I go to Japan and I do my like ramen pilgrimage, and then ramen is ruined forever.
Yeah, ramen will be ruined forever once you go to Japan.
Yeah, once I make my pilgrimage to the ramen motherland. Yeah.
Yeah, like sushi is ruined forever for me. And so is tempura. Like basically all Japanese food that I had in Japan is ruined forever for me.
Oh yeah. It's that is definitely the case. That is definitely the case. It's just not the same sometimes.
No, it's not.
Although I think I will be able to bandage it with the ramen here because it's really that good. If you're ever over here, I'll take you.
Yay!
Okay. And I mean, other than that, we watched Broadway. I watched Wicked for the first time.
Oh, I want to see Wicked. How was it?
It was super good. I highly recommend it.
Nice.
And it was about as gay character drama as I thought it would be. Which is more than nothing, but not as much as I wanted.
I mean, but you want a lot.
Yeah, but I want a lot,
compromise.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I want them to get married on screen.
You want kissing and marriage.
I want marriage on screen. Give it to me.
And people aren't willing to go that far quite yet in a lot of things.
Also, Wicked was written like 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So.
You know. But yeah, I have a very soft spot in my heart for narratives like Wicked that are like, this is the misunderstood story of the Wicked Witch. I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I want it. I want it.
I want it.
Other than that, did we do anything else interesting? I don't know. We just kind of walked around. Did you know that New York has like 3 different Chinatowns?
No, I did not.
It's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. Other than that, have been playing, obviously, Grand Blue Fantasy, and given that I finished Devilman Crybaby.
Baby.
I don't know why my mouth did that, but okay. But given that I finished Devilman Crybaby, the other thing that I've been watching is Rurouni Kenshin. I've watched something in the ballpark of 70 episodes of Rurouni Kenshin.
Since when?
Like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. It's something. It's something.
Well, I mean, I guess I can't be that surprised. I'm already in part 3 of JoJo.
Well, there you go. I was gonna watch JoJo, but there's like not a convenient place for me to watch it because
I'll link you and see if that'll help.
I mean, the thing about Rurouni Kenshin, right, is the reason I started watching it is because it's on Netflix, and Netflix is great because it autoplays.
Yeah, that's what I want too. It's like I want JoJo on a convenient place.
Yeah, I want a convenient drip feed of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah. I mean, it's on Crunchy, so I don't know.
Oh, all of it? All of it's on Crunchyroll?
Yeah, all of it is on Crunchyroll.
Oh. Well, that's not too bad, actually. I can manage that.
Yeah, you can manage that.
Yeah, I'll do that then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, Renu, I almost forgot. This is the most important thing that I will tell you about. So, on my way to and from New York, I learned something, which is that plain movie selections are so good now.
Yeah, they are, right? They're legit.
They're kind of silly with how legit they are. Like, the plane that I was on had Avengers Infinity War, which I didn't watch because I was like, I mean,
sure,
I'm not gonna watch it again on this plane. I'll watch some of this other stuff that I've never seen before. I watched a documentary about ramen called Ramen Heads.
Whoa, what? They had documentaries and stuff too?
Yeah, it was a Japanese documentary about ramen. It was super cool.
That's awesome.
I watched the second Kingsman movie, which I have some thoughts about, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, I haven't watched that yet. I did want to, though.
There are things I like about it and things I do not like about it.
Okay.
And I think, in general, there are more things I dislike about it.
Uh-oh. Okay.
But I don't, as an overall movie, I think it's entertaining. So
okay.
It's not terrible, but it's not what I would say is a good sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it's hard to make a good sequel, but like they mess a lot of things up. I'll say that.
Oh.
And I would say, okay, I watched half of that movie. Oh shoot, what is that movie called? I watched half of Sayonara no Asa ni Yakusoku no Hana wa Kazoru, Kazaro, which means let's
What?
decorate the promised flowers in the farewell morning. Which
What?
It is an anime movie about basically elves, but they're not elves
Okay.
because they look like people,
Okay.
and people who are people, and those people suck because they just kind of come in and wreck the place and steal all the elves.
As they do.
As they do. So it is about an elf girl, basically. I mean, they don't look like elves, but they're elves.
Okay.
And she finds a child, and she adopts the child because the child's mother is dead. And then it's about their like parent relationship, like parent-child relationship, as the son grows up and the mother does not physically change.
Mm-hmm.
I only watched half of it, and to be perfectly honest, I've never seen a movie where I can like not draw a conclusion less or more or whatever. Like it is baffling to me how much I cannot form an opinion about it, given that I've only watched like 40 minutes of it. I feel like normally 40 minutes into anything I can usually think of how I feel about something, but I have absolutely zero thoughts about this movie other than it's very pretty.
Okay.
And it is it's interesting. I kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to see how it ends, so I'll watch the second half at some point later.
But the premise sounds a lot, well, not a lot, but it sounds a little bit like Tarzan.
Yeah, kinda. It kind of does have that. Like I know what you mean, and it kind of does.
Yeah, like a little bit.
like a little bit, yeah. But anyway, now here's the most important part, and the reason I brought up this whole sort of airplane adventure to begin with. They had the live-action Gintama movie.
Oh my god, I still haven't watched it yet.
I watched the live-action Gintama movie.
Oh, tell me!
Don't watch it, it's bad.
Oh no!
It's so bad.
No!
Oh my god, it's so bad.
I had a bad feeling that it would be bad, right? But I wanted to believe.
Okay. It is, first of all, it's like 2 hours long, like 2.5 hours long. It's so long.
Oh gosh.
And it is... the CG is not even a little bit good.
I expected
and because
as much.
it is the it's basically an adaptation of the Benizakura arc.
Yeah.
There's a lot of CG, and Elizabeth is a very important character. And all of that means it's just hideous to look at.
And wait, did they CG Elizabeth?
They CG'd Elizabeth.
Wait, why?
I don't know, because
They...
I guess you're right. They wouldn't have to. They could pretty easily replicate Elizabeth, and
it would have been so easy to make a big old Elizabeth.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, okay, it is bad enough to be somewhat amusing to watch. It is essentially, oh god. I mean, I think part of it is just that it's not the anime, and Gintama is something that really doesn't work if you translate it 1-to-1, because it is so suited to being an anime because it's so fucking weird.
Yeah.
For one, the fight choreography isn't amazing. It has a lot of that kind of cliched Japanese special effects editing that isn't great. It's obviously not a high budget production, which, I mean, that's fair. That kind of suits Gintama, but they don't do anything interesting with that, so, you know. And there's, okay, here's the main problem that I really ended up having is that I miss the original voice actors. Like, I miss Sugita, I miss Rie Kugimiya, and whoever voices Shinpachi. And the fact that they didn't even make a joking appearance, like the original voice actors didn't even make a joking appearance, like, or a cameo, is kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish they did something with that. But yeah, it's just everything that it does, the anime movie does better.
Yeah.
So just watch that.
Yeah.
Honestly, just watch that.
It would have been funny if they had Tomokazu Sugita show up as like Kintoki for no reason.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it also is that some of the characterization is not as spot on as it could be. Like Shinpachi is just yelling and nothing else.
Oh.
It's actually really funny because as the movie goes on, the actor just yells more and more. Like it's he just stops becoming Shinpachi and is just more like yells a Tsukomi, I guess.
Just a yelling man.
Just a yelling man. But yeah, it's I rewatched the Gintama movie recently. After I got off the plane, because I also needed something to watch while I was playing Grand Blue. And yeah, it's just way better. Also, they never played the Does song, which is really good. That gave me them backatchy dancers.
I feel like maybe they should have had an original plot for the movie then.
Yeah, they really should have.
Yeah.
So.
That's a shame.
Oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever.
It's fine. I mean, I didn't expect it to be good, but I watched the whole thing anyway.
You had to.
Yeah, I really did have to, but that's my recommendation. Don't watch it.
Okay, I won't then.
And that's all the things that I did. Wow. We've been talking forever.
Yeah, we did a lot this past week.
We did a lot. Okay, let's talk about Devilman Crybaby, because we've been talking about not that for a long time now.
Small segue.
So, Devilman Crybaby is a new Netflix original, quote unquote, because everything that Netflix does is quote unquote a Netflix original.
It's so original.
But I think in this case it is actually a Netflix original. It is a new adaptation, which we actually have gotten it's because we're coming up on a lot of like anniversaries of really old, really famous manga.
Yeah.
Because I think we came up on like the 50th anniversary of like Go Nagai or something.
Oh, okay.
It is based on a 1972 manga by Go Nagai called Devilman.
Devilman.
And you have a little chart here of how this was created that I'm not gonna even try to parse, so I'll just leave that to you.
I'll do that. So apparently, this all started as a manga by Go Nagai called Demon Lord Dante. And they were going to adapt it into an anime, but they wanted certain changes to be made to it, basically. And so by the time that the anime came into production, it became a somewhat different story, and they called it Devilman. And then after that, shortly after the anime started airing, Go Nagai decided to start drawing the manga for the Devilman series. And so that's where that came about. And then now we have the Netflix original.
Original.
Yeah. Yeah. So Devilman basically started as the whole purpose of the story was to basically be a commentary about war and how war is bad, y'all.
War is bad.
It causes a lot of death and destruction. So if you watch anything related to Devilman or read anything related to Devilman and you see an excessive amount of gruesome, horrible murder, it's because it's all a commentary about how terrible war is, and it's basically just an analogy, right? Like the fusion of humans and demons and them being dragged into war is like a parallel to the draft, and a lot of key characters like Miki and whatnot, who are all innocent, and how they end up dying very horribly is apparently like a symbol, like symbolizing the end of peace, and how war destroys that, obviously. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting.
It is. It is. We will definitely dissect this strange piece of animation. You can hear a lot that it's weird, and that is because it is directed by my boy Masaaki Yuasa. If you've never heard that name before, here's your chance to learn it. Masaaki Yuasa. Because he is one of the best directors in anime, period, and one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's consistently creating some of the most creative, most interesting things to watch anime-wise that couldn't happen in any medium other than anime. It's pretty special. He's pretty special. He's done Night is Short, Walk on Girl. I think it's like Yoru Mijikai Onna or whatever. I haven't watched that, but I really want to.
I haven't either. Me too.
Ping Pong the Animation and the Tatami Galaxy, which are two of my favorite animes of all time.
Yes.
Didn't he do something else?
He's done a lot of stuff. Those were just the key ones that I decided to point out, but he's collabed on a lot of stuff. He's done like a lot of one episode direction type things. Like he did some directing for Samurai Champloo, like I think episode 9 or something like that. He's done an episode for Space Dandy. He's done an episode for Adventure Time.
Oh, that's right.
He's done a lot of collaborative stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is sufficiently Masaaki Yuasa. is what I'll say about that. This is an anime that you will often hear is weird because it is. Mm-hmm. It is really, really funky to look at.
Yeah.
Even just the like normal kind of animation is a little bit. There's something to it. There's something to it. I don't know how it's animated, but it's like not. It is purposely animated to be strange.
It has a very distinct quality to the animation that like you don't see too often in other anime, at least traditional anime, at least.
Yeah, it has a very like it almost has like kind of a flash animation vibe to it, I guess.
Yeah. There's like it it's like Flash, but also like it I don't know, I get the sense of like a bit of a Western touch to it too. Like I don't know, or Western influence.
It very much is. It's it's what is it about? Like if I had to dissect what it is about it that's so kind of strange, it's like it feels very slick and modern and at the same time not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of cues from a lot of the experimental Western animation that happened in the 20th century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like knowing his filmography, like I feel like it does take some, like at least the action parts, like do remind me a bit of Samurai Champloo, but then the art style itself is not like quite as like refined, I guess, or as heavily rendered.
You know what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's distinctive.
You know what? I think I realize what it is. It's just that when I say it's modern and slick, it's because it's very like flat. Like anime itself it tends to be very, very flat because of the way that it evolved as a medium. But this anime specifically, because of the way it uses colors and outlines, it's like hyper flat.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I feel like it's almost like everything is on the exact same plane.
Yeah. I think a lot of the art style. It's interesting though the way that they do that. I feel like they use pretty minimal shading, right?
Right. Yeah. I think the color is
flat colors and
the color is really flat and uniform too. So
yeah.
As a result, it looks very slick. Yeah.
Yeah. It has a very modern like pop art type of feel because a lot of stylistic choices nowadays are definitely that. Like it's just like flat color on flat color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say Yeah. I mean, it is. Let's get into it. Let's get into
Yeah.
it. So,
Right into it.
Devilman tells the story of a boy who becomes possessed by a devil to become a devil man.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it. That's the whole story. No, it's the story of someone who is so gay they caused the apocalypse to happen.
Oh my God.
Which, to be fair, yeah.
I mean, yeah, both of those, yes.
Okay, so the reason that Devilman is an important piece of media is because it predates Evangelion in its like kind of strange, surreal, very gray morality space, right? Like there's so much influence that it clearly has on Evangelion, given that obviously I haven't read the original, obviously I haven't watched the original anime, but there are a lot of moments that, as far as I can tell, are just straight from the manga that, boy, they are just they scream Evangelion, and later stuff that is influenced by that, obviously. Like
especially the end. Oh
yes,
my gosh.
the ending is so Evangelion it hurts. Like it legitimately feels like the ending of Devilman Crybaby, or the ending of Devilman, is the start of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Right? Like that's the first impact.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, it has a lot of that. Or I guess it would be more fitting and more apt to say that Evangelion has a lot of Devilman feel to it, and subsequently works like Madoka have a lot of Devilman feel to them. Because a lot of those ending scenes in Madoka feel very Eva. So
that's true.
It is landmark because it is so brutal, I guess, to say, to put it lightly. It's incredibly gruesome, and it does not pull any punches, like zero.
Yeah.
It is so gruesome.
Yeah, it not only doesn't shy away from the gore and all of the craziness going on, it showcases all of that.
Oh yeah, it totally revels in it.
Yeah.
I will say it's really interesting because I think that Masaaki Yuasa did a really great job of adapting the source material, because it feels very much faithful in that translation to the kind of weird, not weird, but like the themes it has of obviously, like, the surface level is just obviously war is bad, and when people turn against each other, that's bad, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the very top layer where the devils basically trick humanity into destroying themselves.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yes, like that as a metaphor for war and for, the draft, like the fusion of humans and demons, or humans and devils as like an analogy for the draft is pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
But like then there's kind of like this deeper stuff where the way that it's adapted is it is one of the most uncomfortable shows to watch in terms of just how gruesome it can get. But at the same time, what's really interesting is that it not only doesn't glorify violence, but it uses violence and portrays it in a way where it becomes so over the top, it's kind of mundane, right? It becomes mundane, or at the very least, you become desensitized to it. But then, right, and this is the important thing, it pulls it so far back that suddenly you don't like seeing it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I agree.
You go from being uncomfortable to feeling like, oh, okay, whatever, there's still people being ripped apart, but like, this is like the 8th time that I've seen that. But then when people start dying again, you're like, oh no. It manages to make death feel meaningful for the characters that it happens to, even
Yeah.
after it has desensitized you so thoroughly to violence.
That's so true. I the way that they pull that balance off is so fascinating because it's like you said, they premise it or preface it with devils are going around and just massacring people, but then you get a character that gets involved that you have an emotional connection to,
Right.
or who has an emotional connection to a character you have an emotional connection to, right? And so they almost in a way just like they renew your attachment to these characters and also to what's going on, and suddenly you're like, oh no, there's all this death going on around. I don't want my characters that I love to be in there.
Do you know what it is? Actually, I just realized it's never okay. So, oh, whoa. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
So the way that it actually does this is whenever humans are killed by devils, by the devils, it's always kind of that like nonsensical desensitized violence. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
But the most brutal deaths are always are people dying at the hands of other people. So
okay,
like obviously when people die in like the weird Sabbaths where these like weird rave parties where these demons come and possess people, it's like whatever, it's just people dying, right? It's very it's abstracted actually what it is, because it's those sequences are they're so flat, they're like outlines against a single color and then like blood, right? They don't matter, not because it's not that it matters that they're dying, but because, and this is something that they go into, that the way that demons and or devil, I mean, I think they're interchangeable in this context.
Sure, yeah.
Because normally they aren't necessarily, but like in this context, I'm going to use them interchangeably. But
yeah,
demons basically are like they're kind of shown to be like a more pure form of life form, where they're not killing just to kill necessarily, but just because killing is like what is natural to them. Whereas for humans who have this social network built up and society built up, it is meaningful then that people are killing each other, right? Like if you think about the deaths that are actually legitimately meaningful, it's like there's that moment of humanization of Silene and what's his face when they like got Tai, and you're like, well, maybe demons do have feelings,
right?
And then when you think about it, like the rest of the really meaningful deaths are always people being killed by people. It's
I can see that.
It's those like SoundCloud rappers getting killed by the mob of human beings, which so there's SoundCloud rappers basically is what people just refer to them as, and it's fucking great.
I love them though.
It's so good. They open the episode. They open a couple episodes with these like rap parts, and they're honestly amazing.
They're really, really good.
I mean, it makes a very clear statement about, if we take demons in this context, because this is kind of the great thing about this work is that everything is polysemic, which means, they have multiple different meanings to them, right? The demons can both be seen as a natural force, right? Like, natural brutality, right? It's like nature killing you. It's like, you can't blame anyone for that. That's just how it be.
Yeah.
While at the same time, we can look at demons as a manifestation of our hatred and our fear. And at the same time, we can see them as a manifestation of humanity in the way that they wage war against humanity, right? And destroy it. So
right.
It's honestly pretty astounding that I only just realized this now, that all of the most
Yeah.
gruesome, the most hard-hitting, the most meaningful, and most uncomfortable deaths to watch are always at the hands of humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is that moment where our main character Akira is the Devilman, and he sees all these people throwing stones at other human beings, and they're like, you know, you're the real demons, fucking mortals.
Yeah, that scene was really powerful.
Oh my god, yeah. The thing about it is, I feel like it's pretty easy for a story like this and for an anime like this to, I guess, take the easy way out when it comes to morality and storytelling, where
Right.
it is very easy for the story to end with the power of our human connections has brought us together and we have won against the adversary, but that's not how it ends here, you know?
Yeah, that's not the point of the story.
Right. And in the end, right, with Miki dying, right, with Miki Makimura and the other Miki, I guess, too, dying, if we see that as the end of, as the, you know, the death of peace, you know, the human beings are reveling in it. And like, Miki is a character that represents, especially in Devilman Crybaby, these connections between people, right? You know, she reaches out on social media, and all these people are like, I am a Devilman too, right?
Yeah.
And in any other series, that would be it. That would be what saves people, but it's not in this series, right? That's
right.
At the end of the day, you know, the death of peace means everyone loses, right?
Yeah.
And there's no amount of concessions that we can make about how we can fix that. It's just, it sucks.
Yeah.
And we can't let that happen. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a warning, basically.
Yeah, it's such a stark warning against this kind of like paranoia.
It's freaking serious.
It is so heavy. It's like so intense to watch.
Yeah, it's so tiring to watch too. Like, by the end of it, you're just exhausted.
Yeah, it is legitimately exhausting to watch. I would say if any show out there is a tour de force, this is it. Like, it's only 10 episodes long, but by the end of it, you feel like you've been there for like 6 years. Like, just, you've aged 6 years because of how intense it was emotionally.
Yeah.
It is astounding to me, actually, that in just 10 episodes, they managed to get you attached to these characters enough that it feels meaningful when they die. And it doesn't feel like a cheap shot when they die either, because like, that's the point. The point is that they're in a bad way.
Yeah, the way from what I understand is that they recharacterized a lot of these, you know, characters from the original, and I feel like, even though I haven't seen the original, I feel like they just did a fantastic job with how they did it in the Netflix one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic adaptation.
Yeah, I remember every single character. Like, just glancing at their names or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was this person or that person or whatever. Like, I remember them perfectly.
Let us talk, at least briefly, about this whole thing.
We did.
No, okay, I meant a little bit more specifically. I was gonna get into it, but there is a what's really interesting is that the way that that Devilman Crybaby carries the torch of Devilman is in just how outrageous some of its content is. It's very violent, very gruesome, very sexy. It's a lot of sex. People do a lot of sex stuff, like fucking.
I did feel bad about making you watch this in terms of like, oh, I'm subjecting my boy to a lot of sex things.
Renu, I am at least a little bit of an adult. I'm legally recognized as an adult that can buy pornography. No! No, but yeah, it is certainly not a family-friendly show. I would not recommend that you show it to your children, lest they become demons. Or maybe, you know, they'll hate war. It's kind of a gamble, really. It is interesting because it draws this connection between violence and sex. I guess, like, satiation of desire, right? These sorts of things. Like, obviously violence and sex have a long history of being kind of coupled together in a lot of media. But it's what I think is interesting is the way that it doesn't like stop there, right? Because there's a lot of media that does not think very critically about the way that sex and violence function, right? Violence as sex and sex as violence,
right?
Whereas this does. You know, it is kind of, it's part of that whole deal where you get this contrast between this very impersonal, because this is the thing about, like, this is something that I noticed about the way that violence and sex operates in Devilman Crybaby, which is that violence that demons enact upon humans is very depersonalized, it's very abstracted. And to a certain extent, so is sex and sexual desire. Yeah. But at the same time, it also does still manage to feel somewhat, like, deeply personal in a way. Like, there are a lot of moments where, you know, it is meant to be at least abstractly titillating, mind the pun. But, you know, that's not the end of it, right? It is about the ways that those concepts mingle with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt pretty purposeful whenever they did show it. I mean, of course, they showed it in their over the top fashion as they do,
right?
But yeah, the way that the scenes that they picked when they showed it, I think they felt more meaningful.
Yeah, and that is a big thing, which is that it doesn't draw a clear line, right?
Yeah,
like in some respects it does, right? War is bad, etc., etc. People shouldn't be terrible to each other, which is if only. But, you know, at the same time, it is very much this gray space where violence is bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the main character is killing demons pretty gruesomely, just like ripping them in half, right? And it doesn't make a statement either way as to whether, like, sex is bad or not. It just kind of is, which I think is good, right? I think that is the way that it should function in this show, and you know, it varies, I think, and I like the fact that we get a very nuanced, kind of multifaceted look at it.
Right.
I will say, I really appreciated that basically no one is straight. Like, okay, we have Akira, who is presumably straight, but whatever. Like, I mean, he's kind of there. And we got Rio, who's so gay he causes the apocalypse. We have Miki, who is, I mean, she doesn't really go either way, I guess. I mean, okay, she has that, like, semi relationship with that photography dude in the beginning, but we have the other Miki, who's gay for the first Miki.
Yeah. Well, didn't she also, like, during her sexual scene, like, wasn't she thinking about Akira, or was she thinking about Miki? Like, I don't remember that part clearly.
I wasn't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember either. But that would make sense.
Yeah.
There is our other Trek boya, the one who is super gay and has
the one who is just canonically mega gay.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing. There are a lot of series that are quite coy, especially anime, that are quite coy about having gay characters. But this is not one of them, because
this is not one of them.
If something is happening in Devilman Crybaby, it's happening on screen. So, you know, dude's just, like, butt fucking another dude on screen. Meanwhile, he's thinking about his dead lover who died in the rave party of demon summoning.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, I'm surprised, and if this is what Netflix can bring to anime, then so be it. bring on more Netflix originals, quote unquote. Because there are few straight characters in this show. Like, even the sort of ancillary background characters are just kind of vaguely homosexual. I like to believe that Akira Fudo is bisexual, because
Sure.
like a vampire, or not a vampire, what the fuck am I talking about? Like a
Oh my
werewolf,
goodness gracious.
which,
Yeah.
as everyone knows, is the bisexual equivalent of a cryptid. You know, he is both devil and man. He is Devilman.
Devilman.
You can't spell Devilman without bi.
Thank you. This is learning with soup.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I just kind of wrote, like, looping back around, it is rather surprising to me just how well this show navigates the line between desensitized violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And personal violence. And also, I feel like the most standout moments are the moments of quiet in the show. Because it's a show that's so brash and so loud, there are moments of sincerity, of like real human connection in the show that feel all the more pronounced because of that. And I mean, if you're not expecting it, it can almost give you like tonal whiplash with how fast it will rotate between these two things. But I think it does such a good job with that.
Yes.
There's the moments where like Akira is like ripping apart demons and being shot at by the military, and he's bleeding all this weird yellow demon blood. And then there's like moments where he's like staring up at the stars with Miki, and you're like, oh, it's those moments that feel so meaningful because it's contrasted against this really loud background, right? It's these, it's astounding the moments of quiet that we get.
Yeah, I feel like this series is very self-aware of pacing and also the audience's emotions, like how this scene is going to affect the audience. Therefore, after this action-packed scene, and oh my gosh, it's so gut-wrenchingly painful, let's dial it back and give them some reprieve, right? Let's give them a reason to feel like they want to root for these characters, or let's make them want to have more of these quiet moments where it's peaceful and nice and not just like gore and bloodshed everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's great.
It is. It is a very good understanding of pacing, which is so hard to do, right?
Yeah.
This is what makes,
especially in a 10-episode series.
Oh my god, yeah. This is like, I mean, honestly, like it does dip a little bit in the middle. Just a little bit though, not too much. You'll never you almost won't notice it. But it does slow down a little bit more than maybe I would have liked, but honestly,
I got that sense too.
Yeah, I mean that's why I watched 5 episodes, stopped for a week, and then watched the other 5 episodes. Because it just felt like I could. But yeah, it's what makes horror really good. That's why this is like a really great piece, because it employs the exact good understanding of pacing that makes horror good, but utilized in a piece that's not explicitly horror. Right?
Right. It is horrifying, some of the things that happen.
It is it's horrifying. But the way that it builds tension and then relieves it to build it up again is so good.
Yes. It's so good. Yeah, masterful.
If you watch the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes of every episode, you'll understand exactly what I mean. Because the way that it opens is always really good. And the way that it ends, like, they always cut out to the same, almost always, to the same music, except for the last, the episode where Miki dies, which is episode 9.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
They will close the scene, and then the song will start up, the ba 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 ba. Right? And that is so good.
Yeah.
Because it immediately primes you for the next episode. I I mean, it's an astounding piece.
Yes.
It is very gay, but all of them get buried because everyone dies. Like, all of them die. No one is okay at the end, not even a little bit.
Literally everyone dies and the only remaining person is miserable.
Right. It's like Rio is the only person left alive and suddenly he has feelings. And he's like,
he
oh
suddenly
no.
realizes his feelings right then.
Right. It's oh my gosh. It's it's very intense. Like I would definitely say if you cannot handle that amount of emotional intensity, because it's such a roller coaster of an anime, because it ramps up really fast and then hits you really hard.
Yeah, I when I went into this anime, I had zero legitimately zero knowledge of what this anime was going to be about, aside from seeing one clip of Mayuta rapping at Miki. Like, I was like, oh, this looks like such a sweet anime. and then I start watching it, and oh my god. Nothing could have prepared me. But then again, I also liked that I basically had zero expectations of what to get into with this anime, because it was kind of almost like a blank slate, right? And I feel like if I had the expectations of, oh my gosh, this anime is going to be so heartbreaking, tragic, blah, 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 like emotionally tiring, whatever, then I would have put it off a lot longer, or maybe not even have watched it until now, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It honestly does like almost blindside you with how quickly it will get you invested.
Yeah.
I was honestly like, first 10 minutes I wasn't really captured, but by the time I was like 2 episodes in, it was just, even then I was like a little bit like, okay. But by the end of it, I was so invested that it actually felt meaningful when the characters, and this is like, it's so hard nowadays for me to feel bad about a character dying. Like, it is so hard. Like, I just don't care. But I honestly did care. It made me care, which is astounding.
Yeah, like, one of the most memorable scenes for me was when Noel comes across Taro.
Oh my god, that scene was so
eating
good.
His mom. That scene where he's like, I have to kill you, son. Like, I have to. And then he just like goes back and forth. And they do this for like a straight 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Just this dad debating about killing his son. Oh my gosh.
It's so good because it doesn't ever have to explain itself.
No.
Right? Like, when that moment, that is honestly one of the best scenes in the show, is this scene where it's just like his son has turned into a demon and is eating his mom because his mom ran away with his son because she was like, I can't have my demon son. You know, I can't let people know that my son is a demon or else the military will literally kill him. Yeah. And so when you come across this scene, it is already implied what has happened. Like, the son has become a demon and is already eating the mother, and you're like, first of all, oh no, oh god. Yes. You're like, immediately your heart starts sinking like way deeper. And then when the dad has to, nobody ever has to explain it, right? Nobody has to say like, I have to shoot you, but I can't. But I have to shoot you, but I can't. It's literally him like raising and lowering this gun for an almost comical amount of time. Like, it's almost funny in the middle, and then it gets sad again.
Yeah, because they don't ever cut away from it. They just keep showing him debating with himself.
It's just this long uninterrupted scene of him raising and lowering this gun, just trying to figure out what the hell he wants to do. And then, in the end, he just gets shot by the military anyway, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so well done. It is so well done.
Yeah. Yeah, but...
Yeah.
just all the family moments in this series too. And I think because like they built up all those nice moments with the family up until that point that you feel so attached to them, because they're basically like Akira's anchor, right? His the good shining parts of his life. You know, his parents are seen like they get killed pretty early on in the series, and so he's been living with this family, and whenever he's just sitting there like eating breakfast with them or whatever, it's always like a happy conversation, and they're teasing each other and stuff. It's always good. And then to have his family ripped away like that, oh, it hurts so bad.
I'm continually astounded by the way that Masaaki Yuasa can continue to play with my heart like this. I don't understand how he can keep getting away with this.
Yeah, man.
I will say there's another really interesting thing, which is if we look at the demons as kind of an allegory for humanity in general, it is it is interesting in the way that essentially their whole deal was they want to get back into heaven and rock God's shit, because he sent them all. He sent them all to Explodey Town.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, you almost feel sympathetic in that moment. You're like, it is like, I mean, that is like this Old Testament view of God as the destroyer, right? Who kind of, I mean, I feel like anybody who has thought about it for more than 2 seconds has some amount of sympathy for, like, I mean, what makes you so great, right?
Right.
But it is interesting because you both get this somewhat sympathetic feeling for the demons, and also the cyclical way in which the violence they enact upon the world repeats itself, right?
Right.
So obviously, like, all of the demons were destroyed by the heavenly bombardment, and when they arise back from wherever the ether space where they exist as pure will, they cause humans to just wipe each other out, and then like it loops back around and all of the angels are coming. And I love that the angels are just these weird circles. Like, they're just flat circles.
Yeah, they're never personified in any way. They just are arriving to wipe stuff out.
I completely love it because it is everything that I want from like that weird like pseudo Christian imagery. Right? It's like these incomprehensible beings. And this is like, this is a thing, right? Like, if you look at the shape of the demons, obviously they're incorporating humans, because that's how they have to exist. But by that very nature, it means that we are meant to sympathize with them as human forms.
Yes.
And so when we get this contrast between the very weird, certainly, but organic shape of these demons, and the very inorganic, perfect angels, right? You get that contrast immediately without even thinking about it.
Right, yeah.
Like, you understand it just kind of conceptually, immediately, like subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it does well in terms of how much you end up relating to the demons, in that if it wasn't demons, if it was humans in that position of, we're going to condemn you to die, there's no argument, then you could very realistically see humans rising up in the similar fashion.
Right, which they did. The Devilman.
Yeah, exactly. So it does all end up just looping together.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it starts and ends perfectly in the loop, and it's just so good. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of this that is kind of latent in the source material, and it is highly, highly astounding to me. I will say I really enjoyed the last episode as a contrast to the rest of the series, right? This very somber, very quiet, and this is the contrast between the loud and the quiet, right? The very quiet scene where just for like the entire episode, basically, it's just Ryo talking to Akira, And
Yep.
then, obviously he's dead. Like, he's dead. And then it zooms out at the end and he's only half the body. And you're like, well, yeah, there you go.
Well, there you go.
And then the way that he's like calling out for Akira at the end, he doesn't have to say anything for you to know that like there's love there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be coy about the way that you code your gay characters, like that's it, right? Like not even like your gay character, like any characters romantically, right? Like, or any kind of love, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's so good. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Very, very intense. Very much a lot, but it wraps around to this very quiet, contemplative moment, and it doesn't feel out of place. It very much feels like the natural conclusion. Like, obviously, Akira will die and he'll lose, and Ryo will win, but at what cost, right?
Right.
He sits there at the end of the world as God rains down heavenly punishment, and he thinks about all the things. Really, like, he thinks about the only person that he's ever loved, ever felt connected to, which is also the only thing he's ever wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a way, I guess you could say, like, he can never have.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It feels like all of this was unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
Like, given the characters, given their circumstances, that it would have played out like this no matter what.
Right. That's what's so great about this, is that all of the characters, and this is the reason why we're so sympathetic to them, even right off the bat, is that they're each given such deeply driving motivations that even if you don't agree with the actions that they take, you understand them. We don't agree with Miko's decision to go to this weird Satan party and become a demon, but you get it.
She got Mayuta killed.
I know. She did. Poor dude.
So salty.
Right, and like she keeps his hand or whatever just sort of in her
so
house.
So bad. Oh, yeah.
Right? It feels it like you feel like you've lost something, when these characters suffer or when they go through hardship, and they're portrayed in a way as like it's very easy for you to understand their motivations, and that's really how you drive like a good story, right? You have a lot of characters with very strong motivations that will inevitably clash with each other. Yeah, character conflict should drive the plot.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, it's character conflict should drive the plot. ... Because there's no absolutes in this world. I do think that you can have a good plot that is set up without the character conflict to begin with, but like, it's the difference between, do you want your characters to drive the story or do you want the story to drive your characters? And I think there is merit to both of those.
Yeah, sure.
Depending on the situation. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I ended up liking this a lot more than I thought I would. Which, I mean, obviously, like, I love Masaaki Yuasa and I love the work that he does.
Yeah.
But I kind of went in being a little skeptical. I was like, I don't know if this will be good, and it ended up being very much past my expectations. I know I said this before, but it is so difficult for me to get invested in characters anymore. And the fact that it managed to do that without me even like noticing, and the way that it makes those deaths feel meaningful overall is really impressive to me.
Yeah, I was so attached to these characters.
I didn't even realize,
that by the end of the series, and by the end of the series, when everything was dead and dying / gone, I was so angry at this series. I was like, oh my god, I am both so tired and so angry at the same time. I need to walk away from this. And so like but it was just like dwelling in the back of my mind. I was just like, man, oh my gosh, this series. I just kept replaying the moments over and over in my head that I could remember. And basically a week later, I was like, I hate to admit this, but dang it, this series is so good.
Yeah.
I want to hate it so badly because it hurt me, but I can't.
It really, I mean, I was so upset when all those SoundCloud rappers died.
I know.
I was like, who
loved
are
them
these
so
fools
much.
even? And then they died, and I was like, oh no, I love these fools.
I know. Like in the beginning, they're such jokers, right? Like you're like, who are these guys? Who cares about them? But then they by the end of it, oh my gosh, they become your favorites, and it's just it's ridiculous.
I mean, it is like, oh boy, I don't know, man. I had something I wanted to say, but I just I'm losing it. Yeah, I think the most important thing that I can say about this show is that it is a show that you will remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether that be positive or negative is really up to your interpretation and how you feel about it.
Yeah.
But I totally know what you mean, because those I replay a lot of those scenes in my mind. They continue to play in my head.
Yeah.
And it is the hallmark of a good series when something is happening and I'm thinking to myself, I know this is going to happen, but I don't want it to.
Yeah.
And not in like a bad way, but in a way where it's memorable and it feels organic. It's not just you killed a character for shock value. It's people are dying and it's going to hurt you, because that's what this show is about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a very interesting contrast to Full Metal Alchemist that we watched 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I when they started up with the violence and the sexualization and stuff like that, I was very wary, because I tend to not enjoy shows that glorify those kinds of concepts, right? Where like basically to the point of like celebration of hey, look at this cool stuff we could do while brutalizing all these people or whatever, right? And I think it because everything that they did was so purposeful and drove the story forward, it towed that line of, we're glorifying a lot of this violence, but that's because that's the nature of these devils that we're showing, or that's the nature of these terrible people that we're showing. It doesn't feel unnecessary, but also they're using their animation capabilities to the fullest to show you everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It is the reason it is it feels, because I 100% agree that I'm always a little bit wary when a show kind of has very overt sexuality or very overt gruesome violence. And I mean, I'm sure that people I'm sure some people enjoy this stuff, right? That's why slasher flicks, slasher flicks exist. This is why horror movies exist to some extent. People, I feel like, as a society, kind of revel in this violence. And obviously that's like the statement that Devilman Crybaby is making, and Devilman in general.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
The reason that the violence and the sexuality in Devilman Crybaby don't feel out of place and don't feel cheap is because they're not cheap. It's because it's not violence for violence sake. It is violence, and I would say it is like, I would almost say it's not even like glorified violence, or I would say it is glorified violence, but it's glorified violence in the placed into the context of where we glorify violence, right?
Yes, yes.
It is. I mean, it obviously has some like kind of surface level stuff to say about the internet and social media, about how the connections that we have between people can both aid and destroy us, right?
Yes.
But I think that people do have, like, as a society, right? As a global society, we do have this bad habit of glorifying violence, and especially if we consider it righteous violence, right?
Right.
It is even so far as to look at the heavenly punishment that God rains down upon the devil-filled earth, because even that feels like, bad, right? That's not it doesn't feel like people are it doesn't feel like there's justice being served. It feels like it is needlessly over the top, dramatic violence for violence sake, right? The destruction for the sake of destruction.
Right. To me, it feels like they're using the glorification of violence to comment negatively about the glorification of violence.
Exactly. And it's obviously placed in the context of the ways in which we do that. Like, just look at America and the way that we fetishize the military, right? Like, it is. I mean, even the way that Japan fetishizes the military, like, good lord, they've got a whole deal over there. It's stunning, honestly.
Yeah.
And because I feel like it's really easy to come out with a statement about like, oh, war is bad, violence is bad. But the way that it portrays that to us is very impressive.
It's so powerful and memorable.
Right, the way that
it has to stick with you.
The way that it turns violence into a fetishistic act where people are killed, and then there's like obviously no remorse, and then they are dismembered, and people are like dancing with their body parts in the flames, right? Like, we know that's bad, but we also can understand that it is almost needlessly gratuitous, but it's not needless. It is showing us that this is what violence for violence sake is, and it should make you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
It is,
and I feel like it because they also use characters that you care about. It's like it goes back to the whole like desensitization thing until it's someone you care about.
Yeah.
And then it has more stakes.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think that. I mean, this is part of the reason I really like doing the podcast is because a lot of the times I have some thoughts that I want to say, but a lot of the times the thoughts that I have about something don't come out until I start to say them. Right. And this is definitely the case for this. Like, I had some thoughts about this, but I didn't think I would be able to talk this much about it.
Yeah, me too.
And I really enjoy the fact that I can crystallize my thoughts, my latent sort of thoughts into audio for people to consume. Yeah.
Well, it just shows like the importance of discussion, right? Even over things like this or whatever.
I mean, this to me is like, I feel like this is more powerful than like any war movie that's come out in the last 30 years. I'll say 20. But it's so clear about what it's saying, but it says it in such a nuanced way.
Yeah, over the top fashion and yet nuanced at the same time, which is totally bizarre.
Yeah, it's odd. Like, I don't. It is expertly done, and I think because of the way that it is done like that, it's so complicated. Like, I think this is a show that is very easy to have very complicated feelings about.
Yeah, exactly.
As evidenced by the fact that, you tried to hate it.
I wanted to hate it!
I think there's a lot of stuff in it that in any other series or show I would say is needless or gratuitous or
1,000%,
or like problematic, but in the context of the show itself and what the show is telling us as an audience, it works.
Yeah. Yep, it works.
Like, if this is so funny, right? Because like I'm thinking about the opening to Fallout 4 where it's like war never changes. And it's like, I can't believe you said that unironically, first of all. But like so, right? But like contrast that with Devilman Crybaby, which is like war is bad and this is why, and it shows you and you feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And you feel bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely another show rather than tell type of situation.
I mean, this also has, it's very much a show not tell. This also has that same deal that Film Alchemist has, where they're talking about how this might have been a big plot orchestrated by some bad dudes, but we're still the ones who did it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can recognize that obviously Rio is unconsciously Satan, literally. Like, actually
like
actually
Satan, though.
Right? Like that. Right? But also, we have to recognize that, like, the people doing the worst things in this series are still human beings, right? It is showing us the great lengths that people will go to out of fear and paranoia. And it's also important to realize that these are just normal people, and the possibility for monstrous behavior exists in all of us, right? I feel like it's like such an easy comparison to make. It's like, who's the real devil here? But when Akira says that, you actually feel it, right? It's you don't roll your eyes. You're like, yeah, man. Yep. Like, you said something really obvious, but it's true.
Yeah, because it's so interesting because you have literal Satan, and yet he, among all of the crimes and atrocities committed in this series, he didn't do very much. He just convinced people to be paranoid of each other, and then they did the rest, right?
Yeah. So, as a piece of, like, anti-war, like, okay, as an anti-war piece, it certainly functions very well. It is. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's about the trauma of violence. It's about the way that it impacts us both personally and as a society, and it is about how.
Yeah, it's about love.
And it's about love, kind of, and it's also about the devilmans that we carry in our hearts. Listen, everyone,
and that Satan can love too.
Everyone is a devil man. We all have the possibility, the capability to be devils, but we choose to be people.
Devil and man.
Choose to be people, everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have to say. Or at the very least, that's all I want to say, because if I go any farther, we will be here for the next 6 years, just sort of going in circles, talking about the same things over and over again in slightly different ways. So, why don't you tell us what you're up to this week and where we can find you?
Bruh, this weekend I will be at San Japan in San Antonio. And I will be there with our mutual friend, Lover of Scythe. We have a corner together, like my table is next to his table, and we share a corner. So we're just gonna be hanging out. And that will be Friday through Sunday. And so if you want to see, like, me posting stuff about that, I will be doing so on the Twitter at SwanDrawn or on Instagram at swan.drawn. I also just finished Valhalla on stream on my Twitch at SwanDrawn. So if you want to see me try and get all the endings next time I stream, which is probably going to be not this Friday, but the following Friday, then you can catch me.
Oh, I'm
there.
so excited. I love Valhalla.
It's so good. I got caught by surprise at it ending, basically. I was like, that's it?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Where can we find you, Buddy? What are you going to be up to?
You can find me in all the places at Literal Soup. Okay, that's confusing. At Literal Soup. On Twitter, on Twitch, etc., etc. I might be doing Stardew Valley this weekend. I might not. I'm going to be moving probably on Monday. I am going to Europe in a week. And boy, my life is just kind of a lot right now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
I mean, we are we are approaching quickly the end of my summer break, so I'm trying to hang out with as many people as I can, which naturally means that my schedule is somewhat very packed, but not in a predictable way. I have no idea when people are here or not, and plans just kind of crop up now and again. My friends want to do D&D today, but I'm like, I agreed like literally yesterday to do a podcast, so maybe don't plan 12 hours in advance next time. Yeah. Other than that, I'll be around on Twitter. I mean, I just kind of exist. I like to cook and post pictures of the food. I made fish tacos today. These are really good catfish tacos.
Oh, nice.
I've been experimenting with different kinds of consistencies. I think I prefer the fried ones. I usually pan fry them with like flour to make them crispy. But this time I tried just kind of plain. It was okay. Anyway. Oh, I made coffee jelly. Of course, I told Renu about this during the break that we took that I didn't tell you about.
Coffee jelly. I've never heard of it.
I can't believe you've never heard of coffee jelly. It's so delicious. Listen, next time you're at like a Japanese restaurant and they have coffee jelly, eat that coffee jelly.
What if I don't partake in the coffee?
Do you like coffee flavored things? Like it usually has a good amount of sugar in it.
Okay, I like coffee candy.
Oh, well then you'll enjoy this. It's like coffee candy but softer.
Okay.
Yeah. And plus it usually comes with like condensed milk or sweet cream on top, and so worst case scenario it'll taste like an iced coffee. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is it's a giant bitter mess. But don't think about that. It's usually pretty good. I had the most delicious coffee jelly I'd ever had in my life when I was in New York, and I'm still thinking about it, which is why I made coffee jelly today.
I see.
If you have a suggestion for a Bay Area ramen place, send it to absoluteterritorycast@gmail.com. Right?
Or just tweet it
or
at
you can
Soup.
just tweet it at me. Also, we are planning a new podcast that I'm just telling you about now, but I told you about earlier. But we are planning a supplementary podcast to this podcast that tells you all about anime and anime things, just in case you're not really into that, because I am, and I know a lot of things, but maybe you don't know a lot of things, and you want me to tell you a lot of things. So we'll start a short supplementary podcast explaining anime things. If you have topic ideas, you can email them at me and Renu, and we will read them.
We will read
and
them.
We might do an episode on it. And yeah, I think the first episode of that actually will be us talking about us, because I realize we don't really do that like a lot. Like people don't know how we know each other, etc., etc., etc.
Oh, I guess that's true. I was gonna say, like, we do talk a lot about what we do.
We talk a lot about what we do, but we don't talk about who we are, Renu.
Sure.
Yeah, and I feel like that probably should have been the first episode of the podcast, but it's a little too late at this point. We're on episode 18. We're like 40 weeks into the year or whatever. Like it's getting a little bit. So we'll start that too, and that'll be somewhere down the pipeline after I go to Europe. So I will be gone, and that means there will not be an episode in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll have to delay the next episode, but we'll be back stronger than ever when Soup comes
back. That's true. We will be back stronger than ever on the 26th of September. So yeah, thank you for listening so much.
Thanks.
I mean, I feel like I don't say this a lot, but I really appreciate people that tune in and listen, and I'm feeling somewhat emotional about the fact that we're like over halfway through the year, and so we're like we've made so much progress, Renu.
Dude, we're about to come up on our anniversary in a couple months.
We're coming up on our anniversary, and you know what? I think for that we should watch Evangelion again, and let's talk about the first movie.
And then in 2020 we get to talk about the fourth movie. I'm so excited.
Yes. So
yeah,
that's coming up. That's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah,
you can find the podcast at Absolute Cast on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's right. You can also find us on YouTube. Renu will tell you where. I think you can just...
well, if you search for Absolute Territory Podcast, we are usually either the first or second result next to Ken Ashcore's Absolute Territory.
All right.
So
well, that's good. You should watch the videos because Renu puts a lot of work into them, and they're super good. They're super good.
No.
And I love them. And yeah, I think that's it. Akechiguro, eat your fucking heart out.
Woo! Don't be a devil, man.
Don't be a Devilman.